World Series champion, San Francisco Giants, Ron Wotus joining us. Ron, it's Jay and FPJ. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Hey, it's great to be with you guys. I haven't spoken to you before, Jay. Of course, I see FP all the time, so I'm happy to be here.
Well, what the heck are you doing in Connecticut right now? I saw a story that you celebrated your mom's birthday, which was awesome. The first time since, what, high school?
Since high school.
Oh, my goodness. 1979.
Yes, that's what this game can do to you when you're with a team the whole time. So it's been great. And now I'm watching the AA club. You know, they won the last two. They had 8 homers here in AA last night. The Squirrels were playing the Hartford Yard Goats, and they hit 8 homers last night. Aldretti hit 3 himself, so they had a quite offensive performance.
Ron Wotus again joining us from the Folsom Lake Honda Hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. And Ron, I'm glad you're talking about that because obviously this season we've seen a lot of young prospects coming up through the Giants organization. You're obviously familiar with a lot of them. One guy that we've only seen for a little bit here in Sacramento, but I know there's a lot of big hopes for him. How good do you think Marco Luciano can be at the big league level? And do you think he is pretty close to being there full-time next season?
Well, he's, rated a number 2 prospect for a reason. And, he's got a lot of bat potential. Look, he's really flown through the system. He had a cup of coffee, obviously, earlier in the big leagues. But he's really got there quick because he's had quite a few injuries. So he really doesn't have the games played. I think he hits the ball probably harder than anybody we have in the system. So he has that potential. I still think playing shortstop and getting more games under his belt is going to really benefit him. I don't know if he's going to play anywhere this winter, but that would be a big plus for him. But he'll be knocking on the door next year, and he's performed this season, so he's made a lot of great progress. And you got some other good players over there in Sacramento as well.
Well, the Giants have been a very hot and cold team, as you know, very streaky this year. What do you think is the major contributor to that? Is it their defense? Is it their offense? What is it?
Well, that's a tough question. Obviously, the ebb and flow of the season, sometimes you have offensive slumps, sometimes you have defensive slumps. I think their defense has been better overall. I think they've made a bigger emphasis on keeping guys at, limited the number of positions that they play. And I think that's really helped. But, I think the injuries is probably the number one thing you can point to. More so than anything else. They pitched very well this year. But when you have those injuries, I think there have been 10 rookies make their major league debut. And, some of them obviously got there before their time, but there was a need. And they were able to fill in and do a good job. And, right now they're in the wild card. So despite all the injuries and, the slump of the offensive group the last couple months, with, a bunch of young players trying to perform, they're right there. And, they've just gotten through the toughest part of their schedule. So I think the schedule gets a little bit easier for him going forward. And, of course, you got Haniger back, you got Yaz back, and hopefully they're going to hit their stride here in this last month.
Ron, you kind of touched on it in that last answer, but I want to talk about it a little bit deeper because the Giants do kind of incorporate a lot of platooning. And again, the defense hasn't quite what it's been this year. Do you factor in when you're not getting reps in the same spot on a day in and day out basis, that can have a large effect on the defense?
Yeah, I agree with that. Look, it's not easy. I was a utility player. I came up as a shortstop and I played all the infield positions. I actually played some outfield. And when you're playing a new position, it's just not the position you're playing. You're thinking about that. It can affect you at the plate and your confidence. But there's no doubt when you're moving around the field and you're not used to doing that. Years ago you had typical utility players. I mean, they would practice at all the positions. But a lot of times today, players are moved from position to position, and they're really not getting the reps even in practice at the other position because the next night they're playing a different spot. So it definitely can affect your defensive performance.
Well, do you think that's why defense is becoming more undervalued in today's game? It just seems like it because when you have teams like the Phillies, teams that really are offensive oriented and they think about defense a second, is that the factor? Is because they think, people at the top can move guys into different positions without really mastering one position like it used to be back in the day?
Yeah, there's no question the game's changed. It's all about the offensive matchup. Analytics in general they keep defensive stats, but it's all about the pitcher batter matchup, and they want to get, the most offense into that thing. That's why guys pinch hit. Lefties don't face lefties. Historically, since the game was invented, lefties don't hit left-handed pitchers as well. So it's definitely all about that. In the days of having defensive shortstops, like Larry Boa and Mark Belanger, I'm going way back, guys that really didn't hit, right? And they just could play defense. Those days are gone. Even looking more recently, Alex Rodriguez and, Derek Jeter and people like that, your shortstops are expected to hit today. So the game has changed. No question, FP.
The legendary Ron Wotus, former bench coach for the San Francisco Giants, joining us on the Folsom Lake Honda Hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Again, Ron, I know you're real familiar with everything going on within the farm system. One of the bright spots this year for the Giants has been Patrick Bailey behind the dish. Were you surprised how quickly he adjusted and how well he's played at the major league level so far this year?
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't surprised. Not that I didn't think he could do it, but he didn't swing the bat. He didn't really show the same bat in the minor leagues that he has at the major leagues. And some players, there's better scouting reports. There's more atmosphere. Maybe a coach, helped them along the way, or it just could be the slow heartbeat that he has. And look, you get to the major leagues. Now you're there. You're not trying to prove yourself. You're not trying to have big nights every night to move up a level. I did talk to him about that, and he talked a little bit about that, trying to do too much in the minor leagues because he wanted to impress and get to the major league. So he's just trying to be one of the guys now. But he never surprised me on what he does defensively. His whole life he's been an outstanding defensive catcher. Everybody loved throwing to him in the minor leagues and spring training when the major leaguers got a chance to throw to him. So that's not surprising, but the offensive production that he had, he's done a tremendous job.
Well, I don't mean to make you blush here, but you're one of the most revered coaches in baseball. Do you have any advice for those listening that coach either in Little League, high school, or college that could help them connect better with their team?
Well, I think number one is, you got to do your job first and not think about all the other distractions that come along with it. But I think relationships are extremely important. Overcoaching is just as much of a detriment than is undercoaching. And I think building relationships and being there for your players, you're probably talking about all different levels, especially at the youth level and high school, et cetera, et cetera. You want people to feel good when they're around you. So that's first and foremost. Believe in them, build their confidence, because they can't do anything to their potential in life unless you're confident in your ability. So trying to instill and bring that out in your players is extremely important, more so than teaching them certain techniques to have them perform better.
The great former Giants bench coach, Ron Wotus, joining us today. Ron, we know you got a lot going on out there in Connecticut right now. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to stop by and chat with us. Just a couple baseball hits for 10 minutes is a lot of fun.
Hey, my pleasure. Good being with you guys. Take care.
Thanks, Flo.
Again, that was the legendary Ron Wotus on the Folsom Lake Honda Hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop, man. We talked about it.